You did not find this video by accident. Something inside you has been changing quietly for a long time. Not suddenly, but like water wearing down stone. Slow, silent, unstoppable. The conversations around you feel performative now, like a script. Everyone is tired of reading but keeps reciting anyway. You laugh when you're supposed to laugh. You nod when you're supposed to agree. But inside, you feel nothing. Let me tell you something I don't say out loud often. Last year, I stopped being the one who always texts first, just to see what would happen. 3 people reached out. 2 asked for favors. 1 asked if I was okay. The rest? Silence, complete silence, like I never existed. That hurt, but it also told me everything I needed to know.
You started noticing how conversations immediately die the moment you stop keeping them alive. The silence on the other end of the phone, the delayed replies, the energy you pour in that never comes back. The attention you once chased feels exhausting now. The likes, the invites, the approval, it all tastes empty. Even the life you worked so hard to build, the job, the circle, the routine, no longer connects to who you are actually becoming. And that is a terrifying thing to admit.
That shift, it scares people, not because you're dangerous, but because your honesty exposes their performance. Most people would rather live a predictable lie than face an uncomfortable truth. They ignore the signs. They distract themselves with news feeds, group chats, busy weekends, anything that drowns out the voice inside. They force themselves to keep performing for a world they secretly feel disconnected from. That is why most people stay fake, not because they are evil, but because honesty threatens every single relationship built on performance. Think about it. If you stopped pretending tomorrow, how many people would still be around? That question alone keeps most people trapped for decades.
The people you once depended on feel distant, not because they left, but because you finally stopped pretending they were ever really there. You stopped sharing good news with them because they kept responding with silence, or worse, with envy disguised as concern. The version of yourself built entirely around approval is slowly collapsing, and deep down, you know it. You are not losing your mind. You are just exhausted from pretending.
Most people panic when this happens. They search for noise, podcasts, dramas, arguments, anything, because silence forces them to look into the mirror. And they hate the emptiness they see there. They want distractions. They want chaos. They want anything that keeps them from facing the one person they've been avoiding their entire life, themselves. But silence is where emotional clarity begins, not comfort clarity.
Once you become brutally honest with yourself, your entire reality alters. Not instantly, but permanently. You begin noticing things you were too distracted to see before. You notice how quickly connections fade when you stop being useful. You stop texting first, and certain people completely disappear. Not slowly, completely. You realize some friendships survived entirely on your effort. You're reaching out, you're forgiving, you're pretending it didn't hurt.
You realize certain people liked your availability more than your existence. Your time relationships survive only because one person keeps tolerating more than they should, and for a long time, that person was you.
Notice how often you abandoned your own standards just to keep other people comfortable. You swallowed your truth to avoid an argument. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You were easier to love when you tolerated disrespect. Let that sit. Some people were only comfortable when you lacked boundaries. The moment you developed them, the moment you said no without a novel of explanation, they called you difficult. They called you cold. They called you changed. Didn't become cold. You just stopped paying for their comfort with your own peace.
Slowly, your boundaries harden, not into walls, into doors. Some people can still enter, but not without knocking, not without respect. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop chasing validation. You explained yourself so many times. Your intentions, your feelings, your reasons. That eventually you just went quiet, again and again. Eventually you got tired, and honestly, that hurt more than you expected.
You finally realize you cannot explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It is not a communication problem. It is a respect problem. At some point, you stopped telling people what hurt you. Because their reactions, the defensiveness, the gaslighting, the silence, felt emptier than the pain itself. At some point, you stopped expecting people to understand you at all. And that surrender, that was not weakness. That was freedom.
For the first time in your existence, you are standing on your own side, not against anyone, just no longer against yourself. That is where self-respect begins. Not a loud defensive confidence, but a quiet detachment. The kind that comes from needing absolutely nothing from anyone to know your worth, not arrogance. Just exhaustion from begging to be valued.
Most people never reach this stage because familiarity feels safer than change. They stay inside relationships that numb them. They stay inside patterns that destroy their self-respect. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because they are terrified of who they would be without their old identity.
This is why isolation naturally becomes part of the process. You begin disappearing emotionally from environments that once felt normal, not dramatically, not to punish anyone, but because you no longer fit. People notice the distance, your energy changes. You stop reacting emotionally to things that used to control your entire mood. The drama that once hooked you now bores you. You tolerate less disrespect. You stop explaining your decisions.
Some people only like the version of you that needed them. Say that again to yourself. Some people only like the version of you that needed them. Some people never miss you. They miss access to you. They never wanted honesty. They wanted predictability. And honesty makes performative people deeply uncomfortable.
The more desperate you are to be liked, the easier you are to control. People instinctively sense when someone is constantly seeking validation, and it dilutes your presence. But when you become emotionally grounded within your own silence, the dynamic shifts. You speak less, but your words carry weight.
The more complete you become internally, the less external validation controls you. And honestly, most people never escape the need for that control. This phase feels lonely because you are no longer emotionally available to everything that once drained you. Your awareness has sharpened. Your patience for fake behavior is gone. And naturally, some people will lose access to you. Let them. If they disappear when you stop catering to them, the relationship was already over. You just stopped being the only one holding it together.
Right now, your life is forcing a decision. Will you continue performing for the crowd? Or will you finally become real? The moment you stop betraying yourself to maintain someone else's comfort, your future changes.
You are entering a stage where your consistency matters more than your motivation, where your peace matters more than anyone's attention. The strongest transformations begin in isolation. The most grounded people are built during seasons where nobody is applauding them, where nobody is watching, where nobody believes in them except themselves. Most people avoid honesty because honesty demands change. But staying the same is its own kind of death.
The person you are becoming is calmer now, sharper, more disciplined, harder to manipulate. Not because you built armor, but because you finally know who you are. The version of you that shrank itself, that made itself smaller, quieter, more convenient, just to make weak connections work. That version is dying, and it needs to.
The future belongs to people who can stand alone without collapsing emotionally. Who can move forward without applause. Who can trust their own awareness without constant reassurance from a world that never really knew them. You are not becoming perfect. You are not becoming emotionless. You are not becoming hard. You are just becoming real. And once a person becomes real, their comeback has already begun.